Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm very delighted to be chatting with Bodies, Bodies, Bodies director Halina Reijn. So thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, so I just want to say a fabulous film, so full of energy, so funny. Getting to see it in the press screening, there was belly laughs. But it really landed. Like, it's very enjoyable to see that as a shared experience. As a comedy, it's so different to your previous work, which would have been an erotic thriller. There's a lot of psychological elements, even though it is quite funny. I'm just wondering, can you tell me a little bit about how you came to this project after Instinct?
Yeah, so A24, they saw Instinct, I think in London actually, at the film festival, and we started to talk to each other. And they had this script that was completely different actually from what it became later. But at that time, they gave me the script, and I said, well, I don't know, I only do things that I create myself. Red Light, which is a show that's going to air here on Channel 4 next week, I created, and then Instinct, and I don't even know how to do anybody else's work. But I was intrigued by the game because the game was already there in the young people. And I played that game, and we called it Murderer, Werewolf, or Mafia with my friends. And I would always be fascinated by it because it would end up in all these emotions. It's like, it's straight up psychological warfare because it's all about, are you lying? Are you telling the truth? And so I thought that would actually be a great vehicle to talk about group behavior and all of that. So we just, we continued the conversation, and then I pitched to them that I would make it into Lord of the Flies meets Mean Girls. And then we came up with, which is a spoiler, of course.
Oh, totally. I was like, this is for the podcast. We're totally going to edit that out. So
don't worry. Thank you. And so that's when they, and that's when we started to speak about a writer who could, help me create that new idea, put it on the page. And then we found Sarah DeLappe, who's a playwright, actually. And she's very young. And she came from a very elite school. So she had a lot of inspiration because we wanted to talk about, youth culture and this generation and technology being so overwhelming. And so we paired up and we just fell in love with each other, both coming from the same background as theater people. And so it was a great match.
And there is such a kind of playful youthfulness there, but it does say so much, like, in many ways, these kids are in lockdown. Like, it is mirroring that lived experience, and then the various dynamics that push and pull each other along the way. Like, it's so character driven. Do you feel like that's your background as an actor coming in to develop that story?
Yeah, I think also having done theater with Theater Group of Amsterdam, where Ivo van Hoven was the leader, and we basically did only classical plays, so Ibsen, Chekhov, Shakespeare, O'Neill. I think living inside those plays for, since I was 21, Ophelia being my first part, it just gave me so much knowledge of dramaturgy. So that really helps. And also, I think Sarah and I mean, this is way too heavy because this film is so playful and entertaining, but the references that we had, like Emma as Ophelia and Sophie's Platonov, and we had all the stage characters figured out. So I do think that really helps to bring depth and layers. And of course, we made it contemporary and twisted and spinned those characters into people that we thought would be believable now and authentic now. But yes, I do think for both of us, that background helped so much to take a very commercial construct, which is a slasher film. Everybody knows what's going to happen. It's a ritual, but we put our more like layered and weird and theater background into those characters.
And can you tell me a little bit about, again, the casting process? How do you find your characters? How do you get them to cultivate such kind of, again, rich relationships that are evident on screen and like that, like with the text as well, that you just get a sense as a viewer that there's such an intense history between them. So how do you achieve that?
Yeah. I think I just told them because I knew nobody knew each other at all. So we found some of them through auditions, other ones we directly approached because I already knew, like, okay, I want to have Pete Davidson, I want to have Amandla Stenberg. Others, went through the audition process, but none of them knew each other. So of course I was so aware of, having been in so many group scenes myself in different plays or films, being aware of how hard that is to pull off. I just told them, like, listen, I think we should become a theater ensemble, with the same kind of like dynamics. And also being a theater ensemble with Ivo van Hove, you better be off book on day one of rehearsal. You know, it's almost like classical ballet. It's very old fashioned, you know. And so I said to them, and what is the great thing about it is that you are off book and you're so prepared and you're in your costume and you know exactly everything, but then he will give you the freedom to come up with your own ideas and improvise and all of that. So I told them all of this and they really liked that. And we watched films together and we're like, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is of course a completely different film, but also one location, and the acting is raw and vulnerable. And, you know, they really dare to go there with each other. And all of that, I think, really made them hungry for that kind of process. And so we did do table reads and we rehearsed, you know, back in the city of New York a couple of days. And then we went on location all together and we really went through the whole film. And I don't really like rehearsing emotions. I don't think you need to force your actors to already do the whole crying scene, but just physically, you know, to feel it out, to do the lines, get really familiar and live inside the text and combine the text with your physical actions. Do all the stunt scenes, do all the fight scenes, discuss, of course, all the intimacy scenes and all of that. And so we went through the whole film. Once we start shooting, they're all prepared and they can actually let go and really welcome their emotions and you know, and all of that.
And there is like this, like watching the film, I think it opens on a scene of very, I think it's well captured intimacy. Can you tell me a little bit about shooting that? I presume you have an intimacy coordinator nowadays, like they're the quite young actors. How do you get that performance from it and make a set comfortable?
I think what I love about intimacy coordinators is that you can actually get way more like authentic scenes than you would get without them. And I remember when I was with Instinct and I didn't have an intimacy coordinator then because it was just not a thing at that point. And I was at the London Film Festival and we had a big panel about this. And I was talking to them and I was already thinking, oh my God, my next film, I really want to work with one. And so we had a wonderful intimacy coordinator on this film. And the great thing is she will talk to me first, where I will tell her, like, listen, I really want the kiss, because it opens with a long French kiss between two women. And I said, I really want that kiss to be real and vulnerable. And I don't want it to look fake or like a glamour version of it.
And it does feel very truthful. And I think it takes, you're right, like that vulnerability to have that on stage. So
yeah, and then she will talk to the actress individually, and that's so great, because me having been an actress, nobody ever asked me that individually. I was just there at onset. The director would say like, oh, do you mind taking everything off? And you were like, okay, because there was time pressure and 50 people. But when somebody would ask you that weeks before you do that, you also feel that you could actually say, well, I don't feel comfortable, and then you will come up with an alternative. So them being asked separate from me is so important, but politeness, about feeling safe. And they were both totally up for it. And they, you know, but so all of that helps to actually create these very tender, real, beautiful moments. And also I think it works because it's kind of like we're telling the audience, listen, we're going to go on this journey, but it's all about, are we animals or are we civilized? And sensuality and sexuality is such a big part of the primal sort of side of us. And later, of course, that comes into this very dark layer of our personalities, and it becomes violent. But in the beginning, it's beautiful with the birds and the bees and the beautiful paradise where they are in. And so to me, it was extremely important that would be the opening. And yeah, thanks to them and thanks to the intimacy coordinator, we could pull it off.
And the complexities of the politics of the group situation and how it changes intimate relationships when they're in a kind of more public sphere and there's more people involved in it, and like it is, I suppose, that there is that psychological element to it as well.
Yes.
The pacing in this film is so very, very important, and there's not a moment where there feels like there's a lull in action or like it. How do you achieve that, keeping all those moving parts going, keeping your characters' arcs moving? It must be a very difficult balance.
Yeah, it's difficult to balance because of course you have the fact that you only have one location, which is one house, which can be a little bit, the danger of that is it becomes static or boring, or so you have that. And then you have the murder mystery, which is, of course, really a mathematical puzzle in which you have to suspect certain people at a certain time. So there's that. And then you have this whole vision that I have, which is like everybody, it needs all to look like it's so organic and it's flowing and it's so energetic and everything you're saying. So I think just in preparation on the page, and working with my DP for months, I'm working with Sarah and then doing a big rewrite myself, where you really are aware of those 3 different layers all the time. You have a compass in or you plant a compass in your brain for the energy level never dropping. And at the same time doing the puzzle and, and all of that. And of course, the edit is a huge part of that too, and creating the score and having the needle drops. And that can also, of course, create this energy that you need, because they never reflect. Because if they would actually sit down and be like, okay, so wait a minute, what is going on here? Of course, the film would stop. So everything, it was important that it would constantly move forward with agency. But the film is so language heavy. So you also have to deal with that, the fact that all the dialogue. But I think we really pulled off, and that is really all the honor goes to the actors, that even though there's so much language and so much text, it still feels so entertaining, and it still feels surprising and fun and just like fun to watch.
And fun to watch, definitely. Like the humor, like the pacing really works well with the humor, because like that, you've got some visual gags. I don't want to spoil them, but like someone has a run-in with like a kettlebell and like physical props, physical humor, like the ridiculousness of the situation. Even the lavishness of the building itself is almost ridiculous, to the point where it's enjoyable, but yet you're at the whim of these elements. So yet you're in all this luxury, but like, the storm is overhead and it's a tempestuous situation that bubbles up with all this it is a perfect storm of a film. But did it change much? Like, did you have to kind of continuously tweak all that to get to have those jokes land? Because like that as well, like it's no easy feat. I think people are sort of slow to come out of their shells a little bit since COVID.
No, you're right. Of course, I think the art of it, or whatever you want to call it, is to, like, when you're prepared like that, like so for so many months, and you have it all prepared and you know what you're going to do. The danger of that is then that you're stuck, because you know what you're going to do and you already drew it out in your hotel room. So I think you have all of that, and then just as life itself, you let go in the moment and you're open and you keep listening and you keep tweaking and you keep. So yes, I was constantly open to the actors, to improvisation, also to change something, to have the rhythm differently. And then in the edit, of course, you're also doing a lot of work to make jokes land, and and being able to do that. So, and with the music and the sound design. So it's a combination of all of those things, but the core of it is prepare like a soldier and then letting go in the moment, I would say.
Wow. And again, if there's anything that you could go back and tweak, or like in hindsight, because I mean, you've a lot to pick up in a short space of time, and I presume with actors as well, like it's hard to schedule like shoot like that and and have everything work and have everyone you want in the right place at the right time. So I'm just wondering, like, is there anything that you'd be like, if we'd had more time, we would have tried to do this or change this? Or
I think in the moment there were a lot of things where I was like, oh, I wish this and I wish that. But the funny thing is, once the movie is really taking the shape it is taking, it is a long process of months of post-production and all of that, then it sort of really feels like this is it. This is the baby. This is just a baby that comes out of me. Like this, I guess this is the baby that I have to love, And so, of course, Scorsese said it once. He said, a movie is never done. A movie is always something that you sort of leave, because you can never continue to edit, of course. Every filmmaker is like, no, give me another week. But I think me coming from the theater, I'm so used to thinking, sometimes a lamp falls out of the ceiling. Like in theater, a lot of things go wrong. You just have to deal with it in the moment, because every night it's live, right? There's no editing. There's no doing another take. So I think that I'm very used to just thinking, this is this movie. This is, I guess, it feels like it has a will of its own. This is what it wants to be. But I do have to admit to you, for my next film, the first thing I will put in my contract is more shooting days. So of course, you always think like next time, but then probably you never feel it's enough. So I feel that, but I'm very, very proud of what it is. And I still like to watch it. With my first film, I had it like after a couple of times, like, but I still really enjoy watching Bodies, and because it's funny. And I still laugh because the actors are so funny. Yeah.
They are. And like the beats of it are it's perfect. And I think it's a perfect post-COVID film. But thank you so much for chatting with us. It was a joy.
Thank you so much. You're lovely. You're absolutely lovely. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.